Hey, what's up? Shitty upload schedule here. Today is another different video for you. I've been doing a lot of those recently. Um, Today we're going to be discussing Reavyne Gaming on his video about how For Honor should be balanced. This is more to teach and discuss why you probably shouldn't balance a game around the casual community. Now I understand that this is a touchy subject, but I do feel like it's something that still needs to be gone over, as it's still like fairly misunderstood between everyone. But this video is pretty long, so I will be like skipping towards Reavyne's main points throughout the video, as otherwise this video would be fucking ages long. If you've come to see me just roast a guy and insult him, sorry, this isn't that kind of video. I want to try to discuss more about it and talk about why games are balanced a certain way. Now a little bit more like backstory. Reavyne is a foreigner YouTuber. He's mainly just a casual player, and honestly from all the stuff I've watched I can tell that he enjoys the game a lot. He offers a lot of discussion towards other people in the community to talk about what's going on, like what's going on in like Warriors Den, to keep everyone up to date and things like that, and overall it's just a pretty positive guy. Yeah, this video is called For Honor, Pro Players versus the Devs versus the Community. I'll be leaving a link in the description if you want to go watch the video in full. I will be skipping the start because he's just going over the most recent Warriors Den. And yeah, we'll just...
thing is actually pretty dope. And that's all the news done, so now we're going to get into the state of balance. Now this is a very, very big one because there was a lot of stuff here, and it's, like I said, something I've been talking about for like the last year heavily. And it has to do with the community versus the pros versus the devs versus the data. Now, this has been a massive issue that we've all been facing.
Now, the competitive and casual community split. This is something that has been going on for quite a while, and I don't think it's really been patched up. There are people like Freeze, his YouTube channel, that goes to educate like people that may not know much about the game on certain mechanics, features, and things like that, which I think is a great channel to go check out. I'll leave a description for him as well. Definitely go check him out if you want to learn more about the game. But when it comes to like other things such as like balance changes of what Ubisoft does, I don't think that is a determinant between a split in community. That's more of Ubisoft just simply doing their own thing and not really listening to either side of the community.
Jormungandr Season 3. So this is last season. They do, like, you know, the previous one every season. Now this is dual full population, so this is basically everybody. And over here you can see at the top we have Raider, who is first. Now this is when Raider first got his buff. Of course he was absolutely fucked. He still is a bit of a pain in the ass after receiving some nerfs though. You know, at least they dragged him down a bit. This was at his height.
Now this is going to be a little silly, but I don't think the community data is worth spit. There's so many determinants to what could be why a character is there. It could be the players that are playing the character couldn't be very good, they could be fresh, they could be just messing around. There's so many things to like take into mind when doing things like this that it's not 100% accurate to any state of balance. For example, like Raider and Hidakiri, of course they're going to be up the top. They're fresh characters. Well, one of them's a fresh character, the other one's a fresh rework, but also a fan favorite, and a very powerful rework at that. So people are more inclined to play characters like that and play them a lot more, hence why they're probably up there. As for Hidakiri, people just aren't used to the character yet. People are still learning, figuring it out, having fun playing the character as well. Things like that. It's just hard to tell where characters are situated.
So Raider here is at the top. No one's fucking questioning that because it's fucking Raider. Then of course you have Hidakiri. She launched and Hidakiri is very, very strong. So she's going to be there. Shigoki as well, which is really, really good. And those are the top three there. As you can see as well, I want to make a note. All the Wu Lin are still middle and above, right? Especially Grandpa, who's all the way up there. And then you have Black Prior as well.
Now I don't understand why Reavyne points out the Wu Lin like this. I understand within the casual community, especially from all the posts that you usually see on Reddit, that within the casual community there's just a distaste towards the Wu Lin. They feel that they're cheap, light spammy, iframe dodge heavy characters that just offer a cheap win because people can't react to their attacks, which I don't think is completely what they think, but that's just a little bit of understanding for it. As well, that with what Reavyne talks about later with how the game should be balanced around the data of this, shouldn't that make the Wulin an entirely balanced faction because they're mid-tier?
Who's also really strong. But if you look down at the bottom, what do we have? We have Warden at the very bottom, Peacekeeper and the Bushi. Alright, but Warden's at the bottom with 43% overall win rate. Now that is terrible for Warden. But this is full population, so people can say, well, it's full population, takes into account everyone. Some people are shit, that's why, this is the case.
Raven, I think you answered your own little question there by saying, well, people just could be trash. And I'm sorry if that's rude, but that can usually just be the case. And I'll go into more about that in just a second.
But, okay, that's fair enough. That could be a valid argument. Let's look at the pros. So now we're looking at the dual win-loss matrix from Platinum rank and above. Okay, so these are the people who are really good at the game. They're not like the tippity top pros, but we'll get to them in a minute. We're talking about people who are Platinum above. They're considered good, really good at the game, depending on how high you go.
Now, competitive. What a joke of a game mode. People don't play competitive, as far as I've seen, because they want to get an epic rank. They want to be, oh yeah, I'm diamond, look at me. I think people usually do it for that fucking warden ornament. Like, it's the only really good ornament that you want to really go for in competitive. I think Valkyrie's got a pretty decent one. But like, there really is nothing to really go for in competitive, and I don't think people really go there in order to be good. Like, I'm sure I could go into competitive, find a whole bunch of fresh noobs, stomp them all, and then get a high rank. It really isn't that good of a system. It's very unbalanced, very unfair matchmaking, and I don't think it's an accurate portrayal of skill.
Because we're going to have a look now at the pros tier list. So the pros of the game, the best of the best, the guys who are just like, we're top dog at this game, and rightfully so, because they are really top dog at this game. They tend to write their own tier lists, and these are the ones that they use based on tournaments and stuff that they're playing amongst each other. And here, with the pros dual win-loss matrix tier list, whatever you want to call it, right? The pros here say that Warden is S tier. So he's the best of the best, up there with everyone else who's in S tier. Warden was at the bottom for the full pop, and he was sort of at the bottom, remember 6 from the bottom, on the platinum and above, so people who are really good at the game. But according to the pros, he is S tier, so he's right up the top, he's one of the best. That is a massive, massive disconnect and an issue, because this is a massive problem that we're seeing between what the pros are saying, what the data's saying, and what the rest of the majority of the population is actually dealing with.
Now, he does bring up this disconnect between the casual and competitive community quite a lot throughout the video. And honestly, if you ever get a game where your casual and competitive community are communally agreeing on what should be done all the time, like 100% all the time, there is something significantly wrong with your game.
And that's the thing I want to harp on the most here. It is a massive disconnect between the majority of people, right? This is full population and freaking plat and above are still completely disconnected from what the professionals, who are like a very, 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 very minority amount of people at the top, from what they're saying. And it is a little insane that there is this much of a gulf between what the pros are saying and what everyone else is saying.
Now I'm going to go into a little second about why I think Warden is so low on the data. When you pick up For Honor, you see Warden on the box art with Raider and Kensei. When you first start playing this game, you will most likely be playing Warden, because he is the first character you'll be playing in the tutorial and the campaign. And his playstyle in the campaign basically almost completely translates over to the full game. And when people come to this game, they know very little. I've seen level 1 Wardens everywhere, especially in the new season with the new free weekend. And they know very minimal. I've seen Wardens that have no idea that Shoulder Bash really exists or anything. And when Warden is a character that is registered under the easy category in the character select screen, players would generally be more drawn to such a character, especially when he's designed in such a basic way of being like just a knight. People are very drawn towards that kind of feel, much like Raider and Kensei are those stereotypical looking Viking and like samurai. things like that. That's my little theory about why he's probably there. Although once again, there's just so many variables. It's just impossible to tell why exactly they're in the positions they are.
Now, there is a reason for it. The reason why the pros can say this is because these characters in the hands of certain professional players who are really good at the game, they can do shit no one else can do. That's why certain heroes are like...
He low-key just called all Warden players trash, by the way. Now, you keep bringing this up as if casual players are incapable of learning and becoming better players with a character, as if forever they will be a casual player, and unless they're pro, they're incapable of learning a character to its full kit, which I think is a very stupid generalization to make. And of course, people can learn how a character plays and functions in things like 4v4 and 1v1, especially Warden, because I think he's a very easy character for people to learn and get used to in the game.
This, but the thing is, you gotta balance the game for the majority of players. You gotta balance the game for everyone, because all you end up doing is balancing the game for 30 people at the top, and then everyone else just gets to go fuck themselves? Because that's essentially what's happening here.
What an absolutely stupid thing to say, and I know I said I wasn't going to really insult him, but this is an absolutely stupid thing to say. Of course, Ubisoft isn't telling you to go fuck yourself because you're not a competitive player. Like, you don't seem to grasp how fighting games are meant to be balanced, and I'm going to go into it here. Is that if you're going to spend time in a game, you're going to get better at a game. You're going to learn the mechanics, you're going to grow as a person and as a player. And when it comes to other games, there is no exception to the rule. And I hate that people bring this up with For Honor as if it's some exception to the rule. Oh, For Honor is a low population game, so therefore it doesn't need to follow general game balancing conventions, which is just generally just a stupid argument to make. Like, think about a game such as Mortal Kombat 11. Scorpion is the staple character, much like Warden is for that game. He's on the box art as well. And funny enough, he's also like one of the best characters in the game. Actually, I don't think he is anymore, but he was very much up there until his most recent buff. And the pros are basically saying, yep, he's top tier, he's absolutely stomping everyone. But the pros are losing. The pros are absolutely getting smacked with Scorpion, and they're screaming for, we need the buff Scorpion, we need the buff Scorpion, I keep losing his Scorpion. But the pros think absolutely differently. What is a better decision for the company to make? Listen to the pros who know what they're talking about, understand how Mortal Kombat should be balanced, or listen to a minority at which you will basically worsen your game, make Scorpion more of a problem, and basically make your game a much more worse overall product.
The developers were to go off of their tier list, they basically just, keep Warden exact same, because Warden is S tier to these professionals. But to everyone else, the data clearly shows that Warden's at the fucking very bottom. He's 6 from the bottom, he's shit. So Warden needs a buff. And that is the biggest issue the developers are facing. They have this massive push-pull between what the professionals and the really good players of the game can do, and then what everyone else can do. And it's been obvious for a while now that what the pros can do is obviously way more than what everyone else can do. And then you have to pick who you're going to balance the game for. I've said this a million times already. You're going to balance it for the small amount of people at the top, or you're going to balance it for everyone else. They have to make a choice, and they have to actually say what they're doing and go with that direction, because otherwise everyone that's not in this professional little scene is going to end up getting frustrated and leave.
Now, I don't think Ubisoft or any company needs to exactly go out and state who they're going to listen to when it comes to balancing their game, as I don't think it's really a good business model to go and say, hey, we're not going to listen to you because we just want to listen to X and Y, because they're this and they're that, and you're not worth listening to. I think that's just a poor business decision to do, and honestly, I don't think they owe us to say who they're going to listen to. I think Destiny 2 is a good example of a game that catered to casuals and almost killed their entire franchise entirely. Because that game, despite being a game that was known for its long grind, made loot entirely easy to get because the casual community wasn't willing to get better, wait and play longer. They only wanted a game where they could get the loot quickly, finish, and then get out of there, which is what the game did, and it basically screwed over everybody else that was a hardcore fan and a long-time player of the game. Now, this does transfer over to games like For Honor, because if you cater to a casual community, the game will just get easy. People will be able to do things so easily that eventually it's just going to get boring. Because if every player can parry every attack, block every attack, dodge every bash, react to every unblockable, what is the state of the game? And on the other side, if that's not the state that you think is going to be, or what if some character is just so absolutely broken, like, well, Warden for example, where you've just given him, he turned his unblockable into an actual 50-50, given him extra chains, made all of his lights 400 ms. What, is that fun for anyone, despite him already being such a powerful character? Is that a good decision for the company to have made? Have they made the game more fun for people to play? You can leave to think about that one for a bit.
Overall, Raiders at the very top. Of course he is. Aramusha is second. Now this has been a trend lately. Aramusha doing really, really well in 4v4s. Sweet. And Grandpa is, fourth. Hitakiri is fifth.
Now, despite Wooden being a rework that was done ages ago and Wooden being a original cast character, he still has a very high pick rate of 6.2% over the entire population of For Honor. Just keep that in mind.
If you go down the very bottom, Gladiator, Peacekeeper, and Shinobi are at the bottom. That's been a thing for a while now. But this is overall population, right? And then in the top 4% of players in Dominion, once again, Aramusha is first, Raider is second, Jiangjun is third. So we just see a few spots changing here. And down the bottom, Peacekeeper, Gladiator, and Orochi are at the bottom. But there is one special gorgeous lady I want you to keep in mind here, because this is going to once again prove this massive disconnect, and that is Little Miss Nobushi, our lovely Japanese girl. So in overall population for 4v4 Dominion, she is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the bottom. And in the top 4% of Dominion, she is basically just one above mid, right? So she's in the middle of the pack. She's not top tier. She's nowhere near top tier. She's down near the middle.
F in the chat for all Nobushi mains. Now he brings up Nobushi with her overall casual, overall win rate, with that being not that high, but right next to that stat is an almost 50% win rate in the overall top 4%, which I feel like he just doesn't mention because he just wants to drive home more on his point.
According to the data that the developers have from last season. But now we're going to have a look at the pro players and what their tier list says. And once again, there is a massive disconnect, because if you look at the pro players, Nobushi in Dominion is S+ tier. She is not only S tier, which is powerful, she is S+ tier right at the top where it says needs nerfs. Yet with the full population, she's near the bottom. With top 4% of players, she's in the middle. And yet with the pros, she is literally at the top and needs nerfs, above the top, right? And Clarissa said on stream, don't know if she was meant to say it or not, but she actually said on stream that, they saw that this was the case and that the pro players were saying that she's Nobushi is S tier and needs nerfs. That's why they nerfed her. Because when the nerf hit for Nobushi, everyone I saw was like, what? Why? What the fuck is wrong with you people? Why are you nerfing Nobushi? We all need her buffed.
Now let's talk about Nobushi and why she is actually S+ tier before he just says, nah, disconnect, Nobushi, please, they don't know what they're talking about. Nobushi is S+ tier because on B, she's basically untouchable. And by that, I mean, you can't exactly do anything to her, and she can't do anything to you. So she can basically stay on B, clear minions, keep getting health. You can't GB her because hidden stance. She can avoid all your attacks because hidden stance. She basically just can stay there as long as she wants, without really any risk of death. Now, in terms of the Nobushi nerfs, I think Ubisoft has a big track record of just listening to what characters need to be nerfed, but not understanding what about them needs to be nerfed. Because with Nobushi, I think the only thing they did right was allowing people to GB her and kin stance. The rest of her nerfs slash buffs were entirely not things that she needed. She needed more ways in order to play offensively, get into the enemy opponent, which she just didn't get. And I think both communities did agree on what Nobushi needed, which was more offense. And if you want more examples of Ubisoft listening to the competitive community in terms of who needs to be buffed slash nerfed, but not fixing them correctly, there's Nobushi, obviously. Valkyrie rework. They made Valkyrie worse entirely from a regular kit. They didn't listen to basically anything we said except for making heavy and light chains. Shigoki, we basically said you need to make a new entire moveset entirely. I don't think they acknowledged that whatsoever. Orochi, he needed an opener. He really kind of did. because his kit is dog shit. They barely touched him. Peacekeeper, barely touched her. Basically just nerfed her and left it there. Shinobi didn't change him, although I'm pretty sure the community just wanted him deleted. Warlord, he's still basic. They're still buffing Warlord because they don't listen to the competitive community in terms of what Warlord needs. Centurion, he's only now getting rework now, I think. And honestly, the changes look like a step forward, but overall, when they first tried to buff him, they just basically gave him a new chain, which did nothing but give him an infinite.
That's why us as the majority of the community and everyone I saw was saying, hey, buff her, was because she's near the bottom or she's also near the middle, depending if you're top 4%. But she's not doing well. She needed buffs. But according to the pros, which the developers seem to be listening to, she just needed nerfs all over the place.
I think basically everyone agreed that the nerfs Nobushi were getting were entirely stupid and basically nonsensical without giving Nobushi any real compensation for the things that she was losing.
And guess what they did? They nerfed her. And remember how Shinobi got completely fucking ground into the ground?
Another example of Reavyne believing that the competitive community tells Ubisoft what needs to be changed about a character, which is just not true. While they do try to tell them, Ubisoft just doesn't listen.
He's fucking S tier here according to the pros. Yes, once again, in overall, he's right down the bottom, third from the bottom, in top 4%, he's in the middle of the pack again. So there is this massive, massive disconnect. And one of the biggest disconnects of all, I think we can safely say here. The pros have Aramusha in 4s as C tier. Okay? C tier. Basically dog shit, right? And then if you look at the overall win percentage, for the minion, he's second overall population, and he's first top 4%. According to them, he's down the bottom, and Nobushi's at the top. The whole thing is just fucked. It is completely all over the place, and it's just getting ridiculous now.
Yes, Raven, it is fucked. It's almost as if it's an inaccurate portrayal of balance within the For Honor game and should be ignored entirely.
Now, I'll say this once again because I know some people are going to pick on this. Of course, different characters will play way better and way differently in a tier list when the pro players are playing them. I'm not disputing that fact. They're pros for a reason because they're fucking good. And the reason why they are fucking good is because they've taken time to learn every single thing about the game, all the little tricks, all the little everything, and they've just practiced, played, and they're just genuinely good at the game. Not taking anything away from that. But the biggest fucking issue right now when it comes to balance is just the pure and simple fact that the pros are a small minority. Everyone else needs to be catered for. And I know that's going to piss off a lot of people, and it has been pissing off a lot of people who are at the top who are pros. I fully understand that, and I understand why they get pissed off at that, because I'm basically saying, fuck those guys, do it for everyone else, right? I'm saying cater to the majority, so that way they're all happy, and then the pros are going to get pissed. But the game can't keep going like this. You can't go say that Nobushi is S+ tier and she needs nerfs, right, as the pros, because yeah, she might when you're a pro, but for fucking 90% of everyone else, she doesn't. She clearly needs a buff. And yet the developers are going to listen to them, and they're going to nerf her, and then the rest of us are just sitting here scratching our heads like, what the fuck just happened? This is an issue that the developers need to address, and they need to address it and tell us all what they're doing. If they're going to listen to the pros, that's fine. Just tell us so we all know what the fuck's going on. But if I was in charge, I would be catering towards the majority of people, because guess what? Without the majority of players playing your game, buying steel, actively participating, the servers start to die because there's less players to match up with people, there's less people spending money, the developers, they start getting, their resources cut because the game's not making money, and then eventually the whole thing gets cut.
This point can be entirely flipped back on itself. If the game becomes easier for shitty mechanics to be abused, then people won't want to play the game. People won't want to spend money on steel. People won't be able to match up with anyone, and this game would die a lot quicker.
You can't make a game and let it survive and run for a small minority of players. That's just not how it works. That's just not what business is.
Yes, that's how games are balanced. Fighting games especially. They listen to the pros to understand what the problems are so that the game becomes fairer and more balanced. Once again, look at Mortal Kombat. Their newest patch single-handedly almost brought every low tier out of low tier into mid. I think leaving 1 or 2 people there. Some even went up to high tier. All because they listened to what the pros said and what the actual problems were with the characters.
You're not selling fucking Lamborghinis here where you only have to sell 4 a year to fucking make, over $1 million.
Please note that Raven just compared car sales to video game sales.
You're selling a game where you need a lot of people to play it and buy it in order to make money. And catering to a small minority of your player population is the dumbest thing ever, because you're just going to ruin the game for everyone else, because then those people are going to get pissed, and then they're going to leave, and then the game dies for all of us.
Technically yes and no. This game has always followed the system of a lowering population until a new season, where the population rises once again to try out the new hero rework and the new hero. And every game eventually has to die, and I understand that for many, For Honor is a game people love, but I think the time has passed for For Honor to grow large as a game, and I really do blame Year 1 for that, and it's such a rocky start.
And then those pros who wanted the game built specifically for them, they don't have a game anyway, because everyone else left and developers closed it, because, the higher-ups were just like, it's not making money anymore.
Oh look, I'm right, he does think that the competitive community is trying to build a game around themselves. How rude is that, honestly? That you think that the competitive community is building a game for themselves and they don't care for the casual community at all. I guess Freeze is an asshole. I guess Alanakin is a prick and they only care about themselves, and the only reason they make them YouTube videos is, wait, why would they make YouTube videos if not to help the casual community? How does balancing a game around the ideas of pro players who know what they're talking about, understand how the game mechanics work, make the game worse? How does one actually balance a game around a casual community, since the casual community is 6,000 plus if there's only like 30 players in the competitive? How do you determine what is a good decision? How do you determine what makes a good character change? How do you figure out anything, really? How do you all as a community agree on a singular decision? You can't. Well, you could say, oh, we could give it to one player or one group of players that we trust are the better of the casual community, and then you've basically just made another competitive community, and then they wouldn't be catering to casuals, would they? Because they would be making competitive decisions.
Axe that shit. And I do expect some angry rants about me making this video and giving this opinion, but I don't give a fuck, okay? I believe that the majority of the players should be catered for, because I believe that the majority of players need to be happy for the game to survive. But that was a state of balance, and that was my opinion on it.